Thank you for joining us. Before we get started on today's episode, just a quick reminder to please smash the like button in the bottom right corner and subscribe to Locked On Senators so you can be the first to know when new content arrives. The best way to help us grow is to comment on the video as well. So let us know if this is a player you want the Sens to draft or you think they should stay away from, and let us know why as well. This is one of 64 draft profiles that we're producing, so let's get into it. Coming in at number 60 with an average from our 7 scouts at 55.6, it's Bryce McConnell-Barker from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds.
Yeah, a very interesting player. Right off the bat, though, a bit of a longer name, so I'm going to abbreviate and call him BMB a little more often here. So if you're wondering what the hell is BMB, that is Bryce McConnell-Barker. And he played with the Sault Greyhounds, and we got a lot of OHL action, Ross, in today's show. As we talked about a guy that was picked very high in the draft in the OHL yesterday. Well, BMB was picked 4th overall by the Greyhounds in 2020, and he was 8th in rookie scoring in the entire league. So he put up big points in his first year in the O.
And the thing is, his opportunity came, and you never cheer for injuries, but because an NHL drafted player, Tanner Dickinson, who played second line center on this team, he got injured at the end of January and missed the end of the season. It gave BMB a real opportunity to move up the lineup. The Sioux's a good team, and he was able to move up their lineup and play with better players. And certainly it impacted his game, because I'm looking at his game log here, and the injury to Dickinson happened on January 29th. Well, he pretty much went point, no point, point. Like right after the injury, his numbers exploded. However, it didn't continue through the end of the season. So I think after the injury, you could probably have looked at him as being more of a late first round guy, but then only 1 goal in the postseason, Pilsy, in 10 games, 5 points, so 4 apples, but he only had those 5 points in his last 11 games that he played all season long. 23 goals, 49 points during the regular season. Those numbers jump off the page. He was a scorer in his minor hockey league career, even got to play some junior A as a 15 to probably just turned 16-year-old, although he is a late birthday, June 4th. We'll get into his elite prospects page in just a little bit. But Pilsy, to me, I'm looking at that opportunity he got. I think he made a lot of it, but maybe not the most because of that playoff performance. Before I let you tell me what his best strengths are, if you're watching on YouTube, you can already see it, but if you're just listening, what we do is we have our 7 scouting entities. We average them out. I mentioned 55.6. Well, here's where each individual guy has them. Bob McKenzie at 43, Chris Peters at 50, Craig Button at 60, Elite Prospects at 62, and Scott Wheeler at 63. So there's a little tight-knit community there of early 60s, and that's where we have him at number 60.
And I think for BMB, he might have been one of those players where, like you mentioned, it's a big jump going from your minor hockey team where he played in London to going to the OHL, because like the most games he had played before is like 33 games. And then you're jumping to 68 games, and then he's playing 10 games in the playoffs. Like, that's a big deal. So I think maybe, like you mentioned, kind of near the back half or a later part of the season, he started slowing down. Maybe you start to see fatigue creep in a little. And when you have a whole season where you don't play any hockey, like, it's tough to keep that physical fitness and endurance up through a season that you've never endured before. So I think a lot of these players, they should get a bit of a break in that sense, because it's something unlike anything that other prospects have had to deal with in recent years. But what I like about him is he really seems like an all-around skilled guy, right? Like, there's not one dominating attribute where you can point to BMB and be like, hey, this is what he does best here. I put in my notes, Ross, I kind of get Nick Paul vibes from him, because he's a guy that's willing to work hard on the back check. He can play up and down your lineup. You reference he started as a third-line center, bumped up to a second-line center, and had some success. But he's not known for his offense, but at the same time, put Nick Paul in an opportunity to score goals. I don't know, maybe a game 7 up against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he can get things done, right? Like, he still can't put the puck in the net. He's got a nice shot, but I think really what scouts are going to like about him is he's got great hockey IQ, and he's, for a prospect, he's focused on the defensive side of the game, which not a lot of these young kids are. So I think overall he's a decent prospect, but nothing really jumped out at me, Ross. I gave BMB 3 out of 5 stars.
I went with 4 stars, Pilsy, and the reason is this. I think with 2 second-round picks, and again, we don't know how the Senators are going to utilize their draft capital this year. I would like to see them re-energize the middle of the ice in the prospect pool for
Yeah,
more
fair.
long-term, because they've graduated. We talked earlier in the episode, Josh Norris, Tim Stützle, Shane Pinto, Mark Kastler, even Victor Lodin, who might play wing, I think, at the next level. But they're graduating all these centermen. You got to replenish the prospect pool a little bit. So I think especially with Tampa's second-round pick, if they do keep it, again, that could be 64th overall, which would be the last of
Honestly.
our prospect rankings here. I think that you're looking at a situation where why not get a centerman who maybe has that untapped potential as a guy who missed their 16-year-old season and still produced almost 50 points, 49 as a 17-year-old in the Ontario Hockey League. I also like the idea of getting a late birthday, a guy like BMB who's a June birthday. Again, we know that the calendar is just like in school, it flips in mid-September. So you're getting a guy who still has all this room to grow. He clearly had the pedigree coming out of minor hockey as a top 4 pick into the Ontario Hockey League. And just scrolling through here, you can see on his elite prospects page, he is a guy who's, 29 goals in 33 games in his last year. And again, we don't like bringing up minor hockey stats here. This is the National League that these guys are getting drafted in. But those zeros just stand out so heavily in the 2020-2021 season. And we know that the COVID affected everyone, but the Ontario Hockey League didn't play at all. So I think that betting on the upside of one of these kids could be paying dividends later on. So I like him as a 4-star guy, but I like him as a 4-star guy with Tampa's second-round pick if he should still be on the board there. Any final thoughts on BMB, Pilsy?
One final thought is in 2019-2020, he did win Alliance Hockey Player of the Year. That's the league he was playing in with the London Junior Knights, the U16 league there. So obviously a guy that's been able to really shine in big moments, and he's gotten a lot of respect for that. So that's just something to note as well.
And the one thing he needs to work on, a lot of these kids do, is just the consistency. And again, with more reps comes more consistency, but he's got a lot of tools in his toolbox. And that's why I'm a big fan of Bryce McConnell-Barker.